to your next episode of Decoding Attachment Styles. Surprise, surprise, I am not Annalisa. My name is Marta, and I have decided to team up with Annalisa to support her in her wonderful work of figuring out what it is that people are doing in relationships. And I have tagged a great friend of mine, Duncan, to join us as well. So I'll
Hello.
allow Duncan to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Duncan, and I'm going to be joining Annalisa and Marta on this podcast as we decode attachment styles, or at least attempt to. So let's go.
Perfect. So I myself am a fearful avoidant on a journey to becoming secure. I'm pretty sure I'm like 99.9% there, depending on a day. How about you, Duncan? What is your attachment style?
I'm anxiously attached, um, getting healed, getting more secure, and I guess that's what we're going to be discussing today is how we actually achieve that, or at least attempt to in
So,
our
And if I may
negotiations.
jump in now, hi guys, for those of you who've been following me for a while on Decoding Attachment Style, you already know who I am. I've decided to bring in these two lovely people who I've worked with and who I can attest to have become really way more secure than they first started out. They've done work on themselves prior to working with me. So yes, they are secure securely attached enough and have enough tools to help you work on your attachment style. They'll do exactly what I've been doing, pass on the tools and strategies that I use in my practice to help you guys as well. But we've decided to do this first podcast together as an introduction so you have a better idea of where they're coming from and what they can offer you. And they'll share a little bit about their journey. So thank you for joining. If you haven't yet done so, please subscribe and don't forget to share this with your friends. Attachment theory has really popped off. People really want to understand themselves. And um, the podcast is number 26 on attachment theory, the top 26.
woo!
So, it seemed like, it's been helpful to people. So you want to get on that bandwagon and get your pen, your paper out, jot down notes. Um, because that's one fast way of fast tracking your healing process. So I'm going to start with Duncan. Duncan, you mentioned that you were more anxious attached. You've been working on your healing more securely attached, which is very similar to my journey. So I started off as an anxiously attached person and now being secure. I think one of the questions people ask is, do you lose your sense of care, community, when you've healed? Because there's this fear that when I heal, I'm not going to care. When I heal, I'm just going to become numb. And it's a scary thing. Have you experienced that?
No, short answer, no, no, not at all. So I'm still, yeah, I still have the same kind of emotional range there of like caring and etc. And my brain's gone off at a tangent now immediately. Yeah, I haven't lost that sense at all.
Mhm.
Not, not at all. I can appreciate why that might be a fear, 100%, that you would go numb and just become vacant almost, but no, not at all. It's more about recognizing where you put that attention, where you put that care, and how much of it you give, and who you give it to, and what circumstances, and be a bit more precious about who you're giving it to, and think about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Can I add on to that a little bit? I think in regards to care, it's also about not forgetting to give that care to yourself, right? And that's a big
absolutely,
one, and I think that's a big one with both fearful avoidance and anxiously attached. We tend
that's
to
the one we forget about.
yeah, we tend to leave ourselves behind and put our partner first, or we think we are, but at the end of the day, we're actually not putting them first by putting them ahead of us because now we
Mhm.
can't deliver on the level that we want to deliver, and that's not what our partners want from us, really.
No, because then you're just in the realms of people pleasing again.
Mhm. Now, I'm going to be
in a
devil's
nutshell.
advocate here with you, Marta, because somebody listening to that and they just heard you say that you're fearful avoidant or you come from that attachment style, they're going to say, well, fearful avoidants are generally selfish, so it just sounds selfish. How would you address that? Yeah, how would you address that?
Well, I mean, first of all, you guys know me well enough to know that is beyond not true.
It's not true, I can confirm. Yeah.
Thank you. I did not pay him to say that. Although that care package is
Well,
going across
well,
the ocean one
Yeah.
day. Uh, no, I think it's just we're so scared to lose ourselves in our relationships, that we're trying to hold on to that little seed of ourselves, that little heart that's there, and we're scared that if I do XYZ, then I will just disappear, right? That let's say my partner's family just will eat me alive, not physically, obviously, but that'll just be assimilated, disappear, and me as a person will no longer be there, which is again not true. So then we try to defend that little bit of autonomy that we have, right? And sometimes it can come across as selfish, but that is literally coming from a place of I am so petrified that if I don't protect that little space, I'll disappear and I'll be gone as the person that I am. Like I will simply cease to exist as I am.
mhm. Follow-up question to
Mm.
that. What has changed for you as you healed?
Well, I haven't disappeared, so I haven't ceased to exist. I feel like I am better. I'm not in a relationship right now, but I feel like I would be a much better partner now, understanding where I'm coming from or and where those triggers are coming from. I'm no longer scared of somebody else's family. Uh, I look forward to that becoming part of that family, right? Without disappearing and kind of having boundaries. Because I think for me personally, setting boundaries is beyond difficult. It still is work in progress. It has always been difficult. I think the only people that I was pretty good at that was my close family, right? My siblings, my parents. But again, like I have decades of practice with that. But when it comes to partnerships and new people coming into my life, that people pleasing kicks in and you feel like if you set boundaries, then you're not fully available and you're not your best self. So learning to set boundaries and realizing that this is the best way I can offer them to be part of said new family or relationship, it really has transformed my life in regards to my professional life because I can stand up for myself better without being defensive, but just being straightforward. And I do believe that's how I will be able to present in the future relationships as well.
Okay. Duncan, you on boundaries. We've both of us,
Boundary.
we
Well,
know that.
It's like,
boundaries.
what's that?
Boundaries.
Oof.
Yeah. Can you spell it for me? Can you
I'll
use it in a
Google it for
sentence?
you. Let me Google it for you real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
For you and me both,
Um,
though.
yeah. Well, that is one of the things that overlaps, isn't it? Is the common theme there. Yeah, I've always been historically bad with boundaries. With we keep, it's a buzzword, people pleasing, but it's true. It becomes from that place of wanting to be liked, and if you are not useful, if you don't serve a purpose, then what good are you to that person? It's that core fear. What I guess I recognize it more in like friendships and work relationships now, where I don't just jump to attention and make sure everything's done and everyone's happy because and avoid the difficult conversations, avoid the conflict. Now it's a case of I'll kind of stop a little bit and go, do I need to do that? Because they're more than capable of doing that, and that's just going to annoy me, and then I'm going to build resentment, and that's what happens. Resentment builds because it goes back to like taking care of yourself and putting your needs first, not well putting your needs as some sort of priority. Says this anxiously attached man. Um, and yeah, so it's catching. I find I catch myself, and before I wouldn't have. I'd have just gone on autopilot and done these things, and then the anxiety would build, because you're also then waiting for almost the acknowledgement that you did a good thing. And yeah, and now I recognize that's not how I'm supposed to act. Whether people like me or not is not dependent on whether I serve a particular purpose, especially if it doesn't serve me.
You remember that moment when a switch went off and you're like, I can't do this anymore. I've got to learn how to set boundaries.
Almost. I can't remember a specific moment, but I know it happened probably the start of this year, I would say.
Hmm.
There was I just recognize a difference in the boundary setting. Yeah.
Can you share a little
Yeah.
bit
So
about that without naming names?
no. Um, um, no, I think it really is. It's more to do with I recognized it more in my day to day work. That's where it started. That's where I started to set those boundaries. Because I know historically that has caused me problems with work relationships. And that had been a big source of anxiety for me. So yeah, although we are predominantly focusing on romantic relationships, I think if someone's having the trouble setting boundaries in romantic relationships, then it might be a bit easier to start thinking about it in your other relationships where it's not so outcome dependent, not so what's the word, not so critical as it would be in your romantic relationship at home. If you can start doing these things in other areas of your life, where it's perhaps with your family, with an overbearing parent who's just wants to call all the time, and previously you just answer the phone, now you might say, yeah, I can't talk right now, I'll give you a call after work. That kind of thing, get into the practice that way to then do the harder stuff where it's your actual romantic partner.
Well, I mean,
And
I
it's a
also
good thing.
like to remind us that attachment style doesn't switch on and off. You are, it depends. Whoever disrespects you, you are going to be triggered. It doesn't necessarily have to be a
Mm-hmm.
romantic partner. So you can't set boundaries in one area of your life and expect the other areas to thrive. You
No.
only know how to be one individual in all circumstances. And that one individual can have different personalities, different personality traits. But the anxious attachment doesn't switch on and off. It is when we are triggered in any particular situation, we are going to either um, be active or reactive.
Mm.
Right. So it doesn't, yeah. When I'm working with clients, if they come into me and they're like, oh, well, we're no longer together or we are together and I don't know how to set boundaries. The first place you've got to do the boundary pyramid, which we'll talk about in another podcast. But it's the boundary pyramid where you set your priorities and you start to protect those based on how you feel. And in your
Mm-hmm.
boundary pyramid, you've got work there, you've got family, you've got friends, everybody. You've got to set boundaries with everyone because you're protecting a feeling within you. And that feeling can be triggered anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful feeling in a way. It's kind of silly to say that, but obviously as we're learning more and more, it's I came to realize that I did used to set boundaries, but it was very much in a reactive way. It wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna like build my little
Mm-hmm.
fence and be ready for the attack, whatever. No, it was like, holy smokes, this is happening, and I have allowed it to get to this point, right? I have
Yeah.
allowed people to come and take and take and take. And then I hit a wall and I'm like, well, it's done. Here's the hard
Mm-hmm.
boundary and stuff like that. And unfortunately, that's a bit of a just being upfront. That's kind of, I feel, how I've been with my family a lot, unfortunately. So that's something I need to still work on and maybe soften some of the boundaries, right? But I remember one particular event in my personal life, because with having difficulty setting boundaries comes difficulty of saying no, right?
Mm-hmm.
The inability of saying no to people. That's how I end up working overtime. That's how I
Yep.
end up doing
Same.
things that I don't want to be doing.
Same.
I'm
Yep.
doing 10 different things on a weekend that I'm not even interested in doing. And so I was in a relationship and this person asked me something and I just said, No, I'm not gonna do that. Whatever it was, I can't remember what it was. That was inconsequential. And that person was like, well, darn, you like keep saying no. And I just kind of started crying, like not, I just kind of came out of me and I was like, you don't realize how much it took for me to say no and how actually special it feels to feel comfortable with you to be able to say that. To me, that was like it sounds ridiculous, but it was such a wholesome experience because I felt comfortable with that person to say no to them. And he wasn't angry. Like we talked about it, right? And kind of had a little chat, but he wasn't angry that I said no. I was allowed to say no, obviously, and it worked out just fine in that regard.
Yeah, saying no is hard. It is, isn't it? It's like just listening to you say that, I'm like, yeah, squirming a little bit.
Yeah, you expect, I don't know, the
But
lightning to
yeah,
come at you from the sky and just like fry
yeah,
you on the spot, right?
Well, because
yeah,
no got us in trouble when we were kids. We weren't
yeah.
allowed to say no. And so now
No.
we're afraid that if we say no, people are not going to like us.
Mm.
Well, not only
Exactly
that,
that.
but I think we expect everyone to abandon us, right?
Mhm. Well, that's the
Mhm.
not like from the childhood.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah.
you don't, you're saying no? That is so selfish. You're so mean. Those are
Why
the
aren't you
things we grew up
sharing
hearing.
your toys? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. You're not sharing. You said no to it. And yeah, now, we become adults and we're trying to sort through that. Boundary with self to say no. That's the hardest thing. And
Mhm.
it is the reason, and we know this on a subconscious level, we know it is difficult. That is why many of us would rather spend our time, our effort, and energy trying to change our partner or trying to change someone else than learning how to say no, because we know that is the difficult part. I don't have to say no. If my partner can just do what I want him to do, then I don't
Mm.
have to say no. I don't have to say I'm not tolerating this, I'm leaving, because the leaving part is hard,
Yeah.
right?
So I was
That's
going to try and sort my sound out. It's making weird noises. I don't know if you guys are getting any feedback at all, are you?
No,
no,
No.
no,
No.
it's got to be a
Okay, might just
British
be the
feedback.
volume.
we're good.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just getting like crackling this end. So as long as it's not on the feed, it's fine.
Oh no, we're good.
Cool.
We're good.
So,
We're fine.
cool.
Yeah. What were you afraid that would happen? I mean, in specific circumstances, or I think what I'm going back to is you said, Marta, you said it was such a relief to feel that safety and say to that person, no,
Right.
and then be received with what you grew up not expecting.
Hmm.
What does that feel like? Where did that come from?
It felt awesome. Like I legitimately remember the whole thing, right? Because we were at a cabin and I just kind of because I am a fearful avoidant. After like the whole, I said no, he said, well, you keep saying no. And I was like, well, reenactment for you here. I then stepped outside, right? Because again, avoidant. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go outside for a minute, get some fresh air. And I just kind of sat there and cried. And he actually came outside and sat with me. I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry. Uh, and it just, the whole being seen, heard, and understood, right? He didn't have to say anything, just him actually coming out and sitting next to me. That is all I needed. That is all I needed, and it felt like home, you know?
Mhm.
Mic drop.
I think we just
I'm
actually saw your ability to shut off an emotion and focus on what needs to be focused on in real life. Did you see that, Duncan? She just went with
I
not
did.
gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry, and then went
Yeah.
back into action. I
Don't
think
worry,
it's a
I'll cry
superpower.
Pro.
after.
Absolute pro.
I think it's a superpower. I think it's like there's certain things as human beings that we've mastered that could be really helpful. And then, like you just said, I'm going to cry after. Set aside the time for the emotions, but right now it's not for it.
I mean,
Because if
yeah,
Comes with my background too, right? I mean,
Mhm,
working in
mhm.
medical field, I
yeah,
can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
No,
definitely one of the things that I find hard as well is that whole, not now, later. Because emotions, they come up in me. I'm quite an emotional guy, and it comes up, and I find that very hard, especially with like the thought loops, the rumination, and everything
I
that
was
comes with
actually
it.
going to ask, right?
Um,
Because I've
yeah,
interacted with a good chunk of anxious attached individuals, and it seems that the shutting off, because for me, I can obviously I'm still thinking about the story that I just told you and about the person that was a part of it.
mm,
It's literally in the back of,
yeah,
like I can feel that thought in the back of my head, but I'm
mm,
focusing on what I'm doing right now. Whereas I feel like with the anxiously attached individuals, not that there's no ability, but that thought just takes over all,
does
you know what I mean?
all
So
consuming.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
how
it's
have
very
you
hard.
navigated that, or have you? Or how do you like chop it up into pieces to put it up away for later?
Well, the thing is, you chuck ADHD in the mix as well, and yeah,
Spicy.
it's like on steroids. Yeah, it's a real thing. I mean, I guess my job allows me to, being a tattoo artist by trade, you kind of focused on something, and yeah, it might not come out physically, it might not physically show that emotion, but it's there. But I can kind of get away with that to a degree,
Hmm.
which isn't always, I don't think it's always helpful, because it's allowed that pattern to continue. If I was in like a different role where I am customer facing or person facing, I can't do that. You have to, like you said, in your profession as a nurse, you have to, you can't.
Yeah.
So it's practice, isn't it? It's practice and recognition of the patterns.
Yeah, and I
It's
almost
having the
wonder.
right tools. It's really having the right tools because,
Yeah,
I mean, that was not my profession. I was a journalist. I was allowed to show emotions, right?
yeah,
But it wasn't like it wasn't it's really funny. I'll just sidetrack for a second. Someone wrote to me
yeah.
a letter a few years ago on Facebook. They sent me a message and they said, I don't know if you remember me, but I remember when you were co-hosting the morning show. I went into the restroom and you were there and you were crying and you said, I asked you if you were okay and you said, I'm not right now, but I will be. And the sentence, it took her, whatever I said took her 30 years. And that's what she wanted to share with me. Um, so I was allowed to have those emotions, and then you have to say, okay, I can't handle this right now. But it greatly affected me, even on that morning show, because I remember having phone
Mm,
calls after, and people asked, are you okay? You didn't seem like
right.
yourself. Now, the tools that I had to use, as I was working on healing my attachment style, is to set aside time for grief. Those are
Mm,
emotions, and those of you who know the work that I've been doing, I know Marta and Duncan, I create these little human-like images in my head of what my emotions look like. And
yeah.
recently we've had this movie Inside Out was very similar, right? And
Oh
so,
yeah, yeah.
sometimes there's sadness, and I could quickly conjure, and I am a creative person, I quickly conjure what sadness looks like. And I'll say to her, like, I get it, this sucks. But let's deal with this a little later. And set aside time, like really put into my calendar Annalisa's time and then sit with it and go back to it. Okay, what were we feeling? Why were we feeling this? What can we learn from this? How can we move forward? But if you don't set aside that time, that emotion is going to keep pounding at you and you ignore it, it's going to show up in other areas of your life. You're going to be upset with the barista at the cafe, with a family member. Take it out on your partner, take it out on your ex you're hoping to get back with, right?
Mhm.
So it is important to set aside, and I've said this many times, if we could take the strengths of a person who's got an avoidant attachment style and the anxious attachment, that is actually what a secure attached person is, right? Vulnerability and capacity for intimacy and independence and autonomy. You need both of them to be feeling like a fulfilled, secure within yourself human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny. I think I know I've mentioned this to you before, Annalisa. Now that I'm, mostly healed, it's funny. I sometimes do miss my avoidant abilities, right? Because I mean, yeah, I don't mind feeling things. I'm a feeling human being. I am a fearful avoidant. I feel things very deeply. But at times I was able to kind of like, okay, not right now, shut it down. Whereas now being more secure, I don't have as strong of an ability to avoid things. Like I can still, obviously like priorities in life, right? Work this and that. But like sometimes I'm like, oh man, wouldn't it be nice to be like just be able to shut it down and not feel like crap right now, right?
You
So
see
I
that
do miss that every once in a while.
Hmm. Hmm.
that's one of the things that the anxiously attached are quite jealous of, is that you guys can just shut down. No. And it's like, you guys can do that? Wait, what?
It
No,
usually comes at a price, though. It usually comes at a
Yeah.
price.
if I could share something, it's not something I talk about very often because it gets very complicated. When Larry and I broke up the second time, I don't know what happened where, but I started to slip into becoming a fearful avoidant. Now, I thank the heavens that I knew what I was dealing with because
All right.
I would see these emotions and I'll just shut them aside. I'll distract myself with work. And the more I distracted myself with work and loved work, the more my body wanted to just go towards that when things got tough. And I started to recognize it. And I remember, uh, even though we broke up, for him, he never wanted to leave. I was the one who said, okay, this is not going to happen to me again. If we get back together, no way in hell is he going to take me for granted and think you could just get up and leave. Because if you get up and leave, you're not coming back. So I'm working on my healing, right? About 4 months in, we met at a cafe and we're talking, we're having a great time. And I hugged him and I said, I love you. And I felt my entire body freeze up. And I thought, oh my God, does he think I'm committed? Because I haven't decided I'm committed. Does he have expectations? And I started to freak out on the inside. And he goes his way. I get into a cab and I call him and I'm crying. And I said, hey, I know I said I love you, but please don't read too much into it. Now, because he comes from that fearful, avoidant background, he's like, babe, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Relax. You're not obligated to anything. So, and I relaxed there, but I knew what was happening and monitoring it, and I allowed myself just stay with this for a while until you level out. And it was when pushing through all of that, it's like, okay, I don't want to say I love you, but I'm feeling it, and it's fear controlling me. So now I'm going to do the thing that I'm afraid of doing. I'm going to prove that by showing up, pushing through the fear, I'm going to be okay. That's
Mm.
how I became securely attached.
Yeah.
Because that vulnerability part, showing vulnerability, is anxiously attached. Fearful avoidant don't share it, don't open up to vulnerability because they're afraid of losing control, which is, I was kind of stuck between both of them.
Mm.
And in order to heal, you have to look at the thing that you're afraid of and say, no, I'm going to do the thing. And eventually you see that doing the thing does not hurt you. And that's when you start
Yeah.
to feel safe and secure. So, Marta, I've been in your skin and it is not comfortable.
No, that is just why I'm sweating right now. Because, yeah, that would explain a few things. But it's funny you should
You're
say that because
not the only one sweating, but it's because it's 35, 36 degrees here.
we don't know what that
And I have a
means
window
in
shade.
but it's in the 90s, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys do the Fahrenheit
Oh,
thing, don't
nobody
you?
knows Duncan's in the
So
UK.
I'll translate.
Yeah.
Being Canadian, I'll translate since I speak both.
Yeah.
But I just recently made a new friend, and we're sending each other voice notes.
Are you
And
talking about me now? Or
no, no, no. If it
Another
was, I
one,
mean,
Duncan,
you
there's
I
another one.
bombard with voice notes. Okay, no, it's
yeah.
a she. But I was telling her a story, and I was like, and I recorded. I'm like, you know what? I am going to practice being vulnerable, so I will tell you the story that I mentioned that I didn't tell you yesterday. And and so both of us without naming names, she decided she's like, you know what? I'm going to practice that too. And so we're practicing being vulnerable with each other. Um, and we'll see how it goes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all weird because I'm like, this feels strange. But yeah, I have my ex to thank for kind of facing my fears because he kind of called me out one time on like, you're living out of place of fear. And he wasn't referring to emotionally. I think he was talking about life in general, but I took that to heart and started like reassessing not just my physical world, but also like my inner world and how I make those decisions. And I have my reasons for making them the way I did up to that point. Being a what I call a double immigrant and all that. But I was like, oh, yeah, okay, shoot. I don't like that. Because the one thing I know is I do kick ass and I am resilient, and he knows that too. Um, and those were the things that brought us together, right? So I'm like, I do want to go back to kicking ass and being resilient, and do I still have my days when I'm like, I don't want to get up? Yeah, I do, but I'm like, nah, ain't nobody coming to save you, so come on, let's do it, right?
Yeah, that's the part I wish the anxious attach would have. The part where it's like nobody's coming to save you, get up and do it. And it's really about the balance, right? It's, I mean, Duncan,
Mm.
you know this, you've got to incorporate, or you've got to be a little like the avoidant, but not have that fear drive you. So that, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
mhm,
I've been called out on that before about letting fear take the wheel. Definitely something I worked on. Definitely something I worked on. I've had my moments over the last 8, 9 months, probably longer than that, um, where it's very easy to feel sorry for yourself and very easy to go down the woe is me victim mindset. You know, you allow the anxious attachment style to just take over and take the wheel.
mhm,
But I've always had this kind of mantra. I think we might have spoken about this before of like, when you come out the other side, when you sort of suffer from depression or anything like that, getting off topic a little bit, but I think it's still relevant, is that it will pass, you know, like no feeling is final. So it will pass, but I don't want to be right back at the start when I come out the other side. So that's one of the things that keeps me motivated, is that like just keep going, keep showing up, keep pushing through, because when it all clears away, you're going to be right where you wanted to be.
mhm.
If you just give in and just let it consume you, it will pass, but you're right back at the start and you've wasted a whole bunch of time. And that to me is quite a powerful stick to beat myself with. I think it can be relevant to anything. Like, you know, when we talk about like breakups and exes potentially coming back one day, that kind of thing. If you're right back at the start, well, you nothing's changed. Nothing has changed, and you're no good for anyone. Not a new partner, not an ex, not anyone.
Right, because
And I
at
think
that point the
this
outcome would be the same too, right? If we
they'd be
haven't
exactly the
changed, they
same.
haven't changed.
Yeah, and like my ex-wife was telling me a couple of months ago when she had started dating, and she made a comment about like, what is it with all middle-aged men and that just being sad and depressed and talking about their exes all the time? And I was like, oh, apparently one guy fried on the date. So yeah.
Well, that's a red flag.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. I said, I think that's he's telling you he's not ready for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pat him on
Maybe
the head and
maybe he
say,
doesn't know that that's what
yeah,
he's saying, but that's what we need to know. Instead of us,
yeah,
like, especially anxious attached, if I had heard that as an anxious attached person, I went out on a date and I heard something like that, I'd be
mm,
like, oh, I could fix this. I could make
yeah,
it all
yeah,
better. That person
yeah,
was so
yeah.
mean to you. I could be better.
Project.
I could prove
Exactly.
that, you know, you just
Yeah,
yeah, it's a
yeah.
project. And
Mm,
now it's like, okay, if you just broke up with somebody, you need time to get over them.
hmm.
You need
Yeah,
at least, I'll give you a nice 1 year.
yeah.
6 months with massive effort, massive work. And that's,
Yeah.
that's something that Larry and I went through. We had just gotten out of relationships. Just
Yeah.
gotten out of relationships. The thing is, we both knew that we should not be dating each other. So,
Am I the only
Excellent.
one who wants to bring Larry in as a guest as well?
oh, we're bringing him in.
Oh,
We're
oh, we
working
should
on
do
it.
that.
We're working on it. He just doesn't know what he's gonna. And
He just
he's
doesn't
like,
know it yet.
no, and then he's like, he said, but I'm not a public figure. I'm like, are you kidding? You're in recording studios for your songs right now. You're pretty public. But
Oh,
yeah, at some point, it would be lovely to have him on the podcast because sometimes he does stuff like showing vulnerability a lot. So it's like I talked to my therapist about this. I'm like, I'm still amazed. I'm amazed. And I say to him, I'm like, you're my proof that fearful avoidant can heal. You're my absolute proof because I see it all the time.
Aw, that's so
Right. So,
cute.
oh, he's a
It's a
sweetheart.
unicorn. No, I'm kidding. Not a unicorn. It's we can all do it.
Yes.
We can all be
everybody
unicorns.
can.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Everybody
can. We
can.
can. And
I think it just
honest.
starts with being curious, doesn't it? Didn't it start with being curious about
And
yourself when
sick
you
and
look at
tired and sick, and you've got to be sick and tired of feeling helpless,
mm,
of waiting for other people to show up for you, to be consistent. You've got to be goddamn sick and tired. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with going right back to boundaries.
Mm,
Until you're
mm,
sick and tired of being treated that way, you can't say no. You
yeah,
can't look at people and say, F no, you don't get to
mm,
treat me that way. And that's what shocks people into realizing, oh crap, if I don't show up
mm,
for this person as they need, I'm going to lose all the benefits that come with them.
yeah, mm,
F no is my
yeah,
favorite two words right now.
well, and hopefully, you can address it before you even get to the point where you have to say that, right? Because
Mhm.
you have your boundaries, you have your standards, you have your, and I
mm,
truly believe that most people, most partners do want to show up for us the right way. It's
yeah,
interesting. I was chatting with someone the other day about how that person was loving their ex, but they were loving them in a way they want to be loved, right? So this is kind of crossing into like the love languages and whatnot. And this
mm,
person was saying like, well, that's what I want, so that's what I gave her. And I'm like, but is this what she wanted or needed, right? Because
mm,
and I don't think because a lot of people will, well, then you're not compatible. I'm like, no, no. There's like it's a jigsaw puzzle, right? There's like let's say there's like the big toddler ones. There's five pieces. You just have to make them fit properly. That is all. You might have to turn a piece around where physical touch is important to me, but it's not number one. It's number three, right? And so just kind of making sure that you give what they want to receive and you receive what you need as well, right? So being able to communicate what it is that you need versus
yeah,
like, oh, they're giving me this, I'll just take it because they're giving it to me. Like I didn't order apples, I wanted oranges. So excuse me, but could you give me oranges, right? Just learning to communicate that this is not what you need to make your fruit salad. This is because you already have apples, but you're missing oranges, right? And so many of us are scared to actually voice what we need. And then the fruit salad just turns into a potato
mm.
salad, and that's not what I wanted. There you go.
Yeah. I think
I'm a foodie.
al- I've always found it hard to communicate my needs. Like it felt like they were perhaps not as significant in in relationships. Like my needs don't really matter, so I'll just people please and solve your problems and
Mhm.
suit your needs.
Yeah, I think I always focus
But
more on making them happy too, yeah, rather than like,
yeah,
wait,
definitely.
if I'm happy,
Mm,
they're happy, and then both of us can be happy, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, that goes back to that. There's that phrase, isn't there? Happy wife, happy life, and it's like that's not that's that, isn't it? It's people pleasing
People
again.
pleasing. Yeah. It's like I'm going to
Yeah,
suck it up.
But at the
yeah.
same time, if you
It
talk
just
to your
makes me
wife
cringe
and
when I
hear
hear
her
that. It's
needs,
like,
then
dude,
it is happy wife and happy life, and you have your
yeah,
happy self and happy life, right?
I think that really comes from, I mean, when I hear something like that, I could easily I don't want to use the word assume, but it gives a good indication of what the child went through. It
Hmm.
would be that comes from, a child who had a parent or both parents who could not control their emotions. And so the child feels like I need to make mommy or daddy happy so that they could be calm and give me the affection, the attention that I
Hmm.
need. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, little teeny tiny humans and even us grown-ups, we're an organism, we're an animal that needs to survive, and instinctually we know we need our parents to survive. And if our parents are not regulated and they can't protect us, they're losing their crap over whatever is going on. They can't protect us. So we need to make sure that they're calm enough to make sure we're safe. And it's not just physical safety, even though it might be instinctual at that age to be physical, it's emotional
Yeah.
safety. And I think that's
Yeah.
what a lot of us miss, that go back to the basics. We are human beings. It's an animal. The main purpose of that animal is to survive. And you see that the person who's supposed to protect you, you can't help yourself. That person is unable to do that because they're sitting in a corner crying, or they're screaming and shouting, or they're drunk, or whatever is going on. They're not present and aware to protect you. So what do I do? The anxious attach. Ooh, let me make mommy happy. Let me make daddy happy. So they're going to be fine and
Yeah.
focus, right? Or the avoidant attach is, oh crap, I can't depend on this person. Let me figure out how to keep myself safe.
Mm.
Like baby turtles. The turtle mommy, she lays her eggs and
Yeah.
covers it with sand. What happens with the babies? She leaves. Babies hatched and they're
You're
on
on
their
your
own.
own.
And what happens?
They hatch.
Some of them don't survive,
That's true. But see,
right?
it's funny because that survival then kicks into, because you mentioned
Yeah,
all we
most
want to
most
do
of
is
them.
survive, but that's what our brains do too with the stories that we tell ourselves, right? Like, oh, he doesn't care. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I'm not enough, right? That's
Oh
still
yeah, the
just that
stories we tell
survival,
ourselves.
right? Because your brain is just like, oh, this is how you survived so far. So if I keep repeating this stuff, like I'm not enough, I'm not enough, this is how you
Hmm.
lived this long. So we're just gonna go on the loop and keep repeating that. That is all it is. It's the survival mechanism of the brain to keep repeating the stuff that we know objectively, right? On the conscious level, that is beyond not good for us, for me to be telling myself I'm not good enough. But the subconscious, like, yeah, Marta, you're not. Right? Again, it's like holding on to that survival for its dear life.
Yeah. It's what do I need to do to make sure I stay alive on this planet?
Yeah, your brain
Mm.
doesn't care if you're in a relationship, happy or not. You're
Yeah.
alive, you're breathing. Bam,
Yeah.
mission
That's it.
accomplished.
That's it. You could procreate and you could breathe. We're good. That's
Yeah,
it.
next.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking though, I was actually thinking about tribes and if they would have this problem. And in Guyana, where I'm from, we have lots of tribes. I'm thinking I
Mm.
should probably go there and do research on the tribes because
Can we
when a
come with?
child is born, and
That'd
I
be
grew
cool.
up in
Yeah,
this,
I'll bring my camera. Bring
yeah,
my
yeah,
We're
let's
camera.
coming
go.
with.
But I'm thinking I grew up in Guyana where I'm from a village, right? My
Mhm.
father's generation, they don't have attachment style issues. They got issues, but it's not they all survive. They've all just figured out surviving. And when I say attachment style issues, I mean the offsets of it. We don't hear about anxiety, depression, ADHD, nothing of the sort in that generation. But they also had the villagers would look out for each other. I remember this story about my dad when he was young and he had a lemonade bottle and somebody thought it was a beer bottle. So they go home to his mother's and told the mother,
Report back.
hey, your son is having a beer bottle. And then she's sending somebody else, a neighbor, to go get and so the neighbors were involved. And I'm thinking with tribes as well, the entire community is involved in raising the child. The child always feels cared for and
Takes a
protected,
village to raise a child, as they say.
right? But now in our modern day living, we're going to one person and expecting them to
Yes.
be that tribe. And yes, we need
Yeah,
connection, but that comes from humans need connection, but that's from a tribe.
yeah, I don't know if I've had this conversation with you, Marta. I know I've had it with other people. If you look at the, going to go deep now. I have this philosophy, and I know it's not just mine; it's a shared one. That the 2.4 children model is detrimental to the child's well-being, because as parents, you're supposed to raise an adult to survive in the wild and thrive. But if your caregivers are not up to scratch, so we say, then the child doesn't really have a chance in hell, because it's only getting its education from these two people. Because I
Like
found that
printing.
when my stepdaughter was, when my stepdaughter was at daycare from like a young age, from 6 months old, she went to nursery. And I know my ex-wife and her ex-partner, they got a lot of grief for doing that. Now, when I came into the scene, I was like, no, I think this is a good thing, because Caitlin was getting, I mentioned her name there, sorry, was getting influences not just from all the other kids, but from all the other adults. And there was structure. It's more like what you would get in an indigenous tribe community. So she's getting a very broad education from the caregivers, the other children, and to share, learning how to socialize at a young age. And she's grown up into a very well-rounded, wonderful human being. Um, but the criticism that they got at the time for doing that, and yet actually that's probably the most healthy model, because if you've got kids who are growing up under some people who have racist views, right wing or extreme left, whatever you want to go with, if they grow up in their environment, that's going to on them, and off we go.
Yeah, you think that's the
When you
only
look at
way.
when you look at indigenous tribe, it's community, and it's the child influence from all angles, everyone, and that's how you
Yeah,
get
you
the
have
balance. So I
exposure
think
to
that the whole
different
term,
things.
the whole term of it takes a village to raise a child is bang on the money. I think one of the biggest problems in society is the parenting model that we have in the Western world, because you're you're just growing up under the influence of two people who may
Yeah.
not be fit for purpose.
Well, the other thing is we've learned a particular way from our parents,
Yeah,
and we believe that's the right way. I mean, you look at
yeah.
social media, everybody's giving their opinion on what's right and what's wrong, right? And we forget that the individual has a mind of their own or should have a mind of their own. And I've made this mistake. I've got 4 kids. I've made this mistake with the 3 girls, the older ones, until I don't know, maybe the girls were 12, 10, and 8. And I try not to make that mistake with my son, where I say, think for yourself. And if you don't like something mommy's doing, question it, push back. I need to hear your opinions. And so he grew up with that, and now the girls have it. But yeah, it's and I've told my kids forever, my job as your parent is to prepare you as best as I possibly could and guide you as best as I possibly could so that you could be fine in this world. That's it. And then after that, you make your decisions. I'm out of here. Like, you decide what's right for you and what's not right for you. But I see it. I see it every day. And I don't think, this is not to bash a parent. I know for the most part, parents are trying their best. They're trying their best. They want what's best for their kids. The way the children are looking at these experiences, how they're absorbing it, that's a really tricky thing. It's a really tricky thing. The attachment style, secure attach. Um, I've had a client who had incredible parents, and you know, he was he was adopted. I'm changing a lot of this story because I don't like sharing about my clients, but the gist of it is was adopted. Incredible parents adopted him. Um, and you would think that this child would grow into an adult who is securely attached. That did not happen because that child felt like I now owe it to my parents to be the best child I possibly can be. And that child turned out to be a fearful avoidant. So it's not always the parents. It is how the child perceive their experiences and what they take away from them. It's such a, I swear to you, I'm growing really, really, really to hate this attachment thing. It's like a freaking disease.
Well, it's also like as we've discussed on I think on the previous podcast on social media, the demonization of fearful avoidance and dismissive avoidance. You know that they get demonized almost like, yeah, you can't be with them. They're no good. We just push those over there, and it's like what? They're a whole. It's not that simple. It's there's not a one
Stop
size
shoving
fits
me in the
all like that.
corner, Duncan.
We're not shoving you in the corner. Could you
Yeah,
imagine?
I'm just gonna
This is
minimize your
this is
window.
this is why I started training martial arts so I can kick people's
Yeah.
asses when
Well, what's that movie? Nobody puts baby in the corner.
yes, nobody puts baby in
Nobody,
Oh,
the corner.
yeah,
Dirty
Thank
nobody
you.
Dancing.
puts
Thank
Marta
you.
in the corner.
That's right. That's right.
No, I think we don't
Not when I
really,
can kick.
when it comes to attachment styles, we really don't see that the people, especially anxious attached, the brain is wired to be attracted to fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant. Why?
Mm.
Because it's already programmed to believe that I've got to work for love and I'm going to go towards this person who subconsciously there's a part of me that already picked up this is going to be hard to achieve. So I'm going to be attracted to that. And it's not just your romantic partners. It is going to be your favorite parent, but they're not
Mm.
avoidantly attached or looking that way with you. Check your other parent, how
Hmm.
they're reacting. It's your
Yeah.
best friend.
Yeah, everyone, check on your parents.
Yeah, it's your best friend. Like my father, I grew up absolutely
Bing.
adoring this man. The year of my life, he was always so calm, put together, ambitious. Oh boy, now I'm
Yeah.
older. My mother was anxiously attached and my father was fearful avoidant. And who have I dated? Only fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant. And a wonderful, still a wonderful man. I just didn't know what my mom was going through. And of course, I
Mm.
didn't know what he was going through with my mom because she was a typical anxious attached. Poor thing.
Yeah.
Wait, do
I
we have the same
think,
parent?
well,
Probably. We all do have the
Yeah,
same
well,
parent.
I
yeah,
think,
we do.
yeah, because it sounds very familiar to me also. You know, as you were saying that, I was like, huh, what are we doing?
Yeah, I
Hmm.
was actually thinking I'm gonna write a post and it's gonna start with
I thought you were saying you write a poem then. I
I'm
was like,
gonna
oh,
start I'm gonna
Do
start
both.
it with my what my son is my son is a dismissive avoidant. What an AH or what a jerk. And let's see how people react to that because that's what we're dealing with. The people that we love, little adorable, loving humans, carry
hmm,
these attachment styles. But we call them
hmm,
all of these names like AH and jerk and all of it when it's an X, and we forget that kids are walking around and, our favorite
hmm,
actors, our favorite artists.
Well, and at the end of the
yeah,
day, it's funny, I was having this conversation like an hour ago. At the end of the day, the attachment style is just a label, right? It's what's
hmm,
underneath that label. It's the core wounds that need to be addressed and figured out and patched up. And I kind of started thinking about this as a scar, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm a fearful avoidant and I have a scar. I have a fearful avoidance scar. So when something happens, my initial instinct is go the fearful avoidant route, right? Like that's like, that's what I'm gonna do. It's just, my scar is burning, like Harry Potter. So I gotta like pull myself, or Lord of the Rings too, if you know, you know. Anyways, I have to pull myself back and be like, no, no, it's just a scar now. You remember where that scar came from, but I know better ways to deal with it now. I'm taking the healthy route or the secure route or whatever route. So the scar is forever going to be there. Like my initial instinct will be to go and, ah, but it's just the stopping myself, pulling back, and rerouting in a different direction, right? But again, fearful avoidant is just a label. Like, what is it that makes me a fearful avoidant, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is that core wound that makes me so? And then we deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people
That
take on
is.
that label like it's the whole person,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah. Yeah.
personality.
Exactly.
It's just a part of the personality. There's so many
Yeah. And
parts of the human.
yeah. And that's what I find frustrating with that social media angle of literally, yes, the label, if you like, gets you in the room, but then the work starts there. It doesn't. That's not. You don't write them off because they they have these tendencies and exhibit these qualities. It's like, yeah, like Monta said.
Yeah.
Okay, so why are you like that? Because it
Yeah,
can all
let's
be undone.
pull the band-aid off and see what's
What's
underneath.
Yeah,
underneath? It's kind of like, oh
yeah,
yeah, Marty, you're a nurse. So I'd like to see it
yeah.
this way. A person comes in with a fever, right? That's the trigger. That's the trigger. Okay, what's causing the fever?
Right,
There's a bacteria here, which is the attachment style.
right,
Okay, now how do we treat it? And so you can heal.
right.
That's what it is.
Let's get you some antibiotics, okay?
Yes,
Come
let's get
on.
you the antibiotics, which would be the tools to
Yeah.
help you to heal, but it's not the entire person. The person is not the fever. The person is not the bacteria. It's a
No,
part of
there's a
the
lot
person.
of other pieces, right? And that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like human psychology is so much more complex than just the
Hmm.
attachment styles, right? Like we can
Yeah.
address it and go through it, but there's also other things that affect us in our day-to-day life. Um, Not to say, but I do think it's a big chunk of, you know, um, explanation for why we react the way we react and why we are the way we are. But it's not all of it, right? It's not be all end all attachment styles. Poof, you're securely attached, you'll have no issues in life. I
Yeah.
wish it
It's
was.
way more
I wish it was
nuanced
though.
than that. Yeah.
Life would be just boring.
Yeah, actually, no. Do
Wouldn't it?
you guys have any issues in life
Wouldn't
now that you're securely attached? What? You still do? Oh, shoot.
Uh, what are the issues? I was actually thinking about this because it gets kind of
it?
annoying when somebody asks, like, don't you have anything that you worry about? I've been thinking about it, still
Yeah.
thinking about it. No, I think I've just trained myself that whenever something pops up, I'll deal with it and get it over with. There's nothing to worry about if it's not happening. And
I
I
don't want
think,
to worry in advance yet.
it's like,
Mm.
I think, and the other thing is, someone had asked me about my relationship with Larry. Is there nothing you like about him? And I said, I spent so many years focusing on what I do like and what I'm grateful for. And that's what I enjoy, that everything else is like, I don't, I guess whatever it is, it's, if there is something to not like, it is not so loud to cause a disruption or anxiety. Does that make
But
sense?
but can we also go
Yeah.
over the fact that holy smokes, who came up with this belief that if it was right, then it would be easy? Who came up with that? That relationships are meant to be
Well,
easy? Because
I
last time
completely
I
disagree with that
checked,
anyway, because nothing easy's ever been worth it. Everything that's been worthwhile in your life that's been successful
yeah, you
has
had to
taken
work
work.
for, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Everything,
the
jobs,
first 2 years was
absolutely
not
everything,
easy,
Yeah.
everything.
and
So
it's
to
now.
assume that relationships are supposed to be easy is no, I don't buy that at all. Sorry,
No,
no, because
I
what?
agree.
Because that would mean that one of you has to pander to the other and completely submit
That,
Yeah.
or you're
because you've got
dating a
two different
copy of
people coming together.
yourself, and then
Exactly.
how
So
exciting is that?
yeah,
But then it's also, I feel like the part of it that is work, and this is something I feel like we really need to be careful with. The part of the relationship that is work is getting to know the other person, understanding who they are, understanding ourselves in the relationship, asking ourselves, is this something that works for the life I want to build for myself? Right?
Fair.
Making a few compromises if they're healthy, but the work should not be this person was amazing when we met. They're different now, and I need to change them and make them into who I want them to be. That is
No,
not the work,
no, that is not what we're saying. Yeah, changing
right?
your partner is not the work I'm referring to, but I
That's,
think it's such a
yeah.
gift when your partner does bring out in you your issues to a certain degree, right?
Mm.
When you're with a partner and they do trigger that core wound, I think that is, and people are going to roll their eyeballs at me because I just did myself. But it's such a gift, right? Because certain things don't present until such time that you're in a relationship, right? Something has to be triggered by a relationship. And then the core wound that I've had is now exposed. And
Hmm.
guess what?
Hmm.
Now we get to make a conscious decision if you and I, and obviously most of it would be on me to work on me, but also if you and I want to patch this up together, patch that Humpty Dumpty human being that I am and Humpty Dumpty that you are, and realign again over and over and over again, because that's what love is. It's choosing your person every single day to continue to be your person,
Yeah.
right? And there's going to be bumps along the way, and there's going to be new things that come up from under that band-aid. And do we continue choosing that, right? But them reflecting those core wounds, that's a gift. If they're not reflecting that in you, then are you 12? Are you dating at like are you both 12 and just don't
Yeah.
have any issues? Like your partner is supposed to bring that out in you and you then address that together, right?
Yeah.
That's
Mm.
the beauty of relationships. Okay,
And I also, to add on to that, I feel like the way we know what we need to work on is when we're triggered, catch yourself before you get defensive.
mm,
Because that
I think
Yeah.
that's
trigger
a
is
big
the
one, yeah.
thing. Yeah, that trigger is the thing
Mhm.
that needs healing. Now you
That's one of
pause
the
and
key,
ask, hmm.
isn't it? That's like the fundamental, I would say, is yeah, like I've had it fed back to me that I'm not so reactive anymore. I'm not so defensive. I'm not so reactive, and that's recognizing. You'll feel it, but then you get a choice whether you react or just
See,
take
it's
a
that
sec,
scar I was talking
reevaluate.
about.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, you pause and
relief. Like
ask, okay, why am I
pause for
feeling
effect,
this
and
way?
then
Yeah. And
yeah,
generally,
it's
that trigger, when we feel that trigger, not only is it saying that there's something here that needs healing, it's also saying, on maybe a subconscious level, I believe it to be true. If we get
Right,
mm-hmm,
defensive, there's some
yeah,
truth to
right.
it.
yeah, yeah. Because it's like
Healing is
when people
important.
say, if someone annoys you, if there's a person that constantly annoys you, ask yourself why. Is it because you see something in them that reminds you of what you do, and it's just easy to project into them?
Oh, yeah. I
Same
still
thing.
go through that
Yeah.
whenever I meet someone who's anxiously attached and I
Yeah. Whereas
see
I'm like,
the,
no, I just don't like them.
They're
no,
just
no, no.
annoying.
I get so triggered because now it's like
Do I
I
trigger you then?
see myself, I see the past me, and I see how this person's behavior, as sweet as they are, as caring and forgiving and accommodating they are, is setting them up for
Oh,
pain. And I want to say, you don't have to be this person. You really.
Okay, so
yeah,
question for you
yeah.
guys then. Have you noticed that since doing your inner work, have you noticed that maybe in some ways you're not as patient? Or where you maybe like, maybe I just see it quicker now? Or you know what I mean? Like I recognize it in people quicker and I think I'm just like, I'm not stepping into that, right? Be it a romantic relationship or a new friendship or whatever. I'm like, not
Yeah,
doing that.
actually,
You
I
know,
think
I'm
so.
not choosing this for
Yeah,
me now, you
yeah,
know?
Yeah.
yeah. I'd
I
say
mean,
more
I
in
think that's
personal
more of the
relationships.
boundary and not so much being patient. It's more of a boundary to quickly catch the thing that I'm
Hmm.
choosing not to get involved in again and saying in that
Yeah.
moment, I'm not prolonging it, I'm not dragging you along. I'm
Hmm.
just saying this is not something for me.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
even
boundaries.
apologizing for it. Just this is not
Mm.
something for me. Yeah, for
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure. For sure. I mean, the thing about healing is that it's kind of like getting laser treatment for your eyes. It just opens up and you see everything clearly, quickly. You
Mm.
spot a red flag in anything someone says or even their behavior. You're too nice to
Mhm.
Right.
me. You don't know me.
Yeah. Why are you
Where's that
saying
coming from?
that?
I don't think you're,
Yeah.
I don't think you're trying to
Yeah.
manipulate me deliberately. I think there's something that
What
you're
kind of
hoping.
people pleasing are you doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you see it
Yeah.
right away. See it
Yeah.
right away. One of the things Larry and I love to do is we would go out and we could tell if someone is on their first date or not. And a lot of time we're
Yeah.
overhearing their conversation, you pick up the red flag right there. And we always can tell when
Yeah.
the anxious attached is not seeing that red flag. The guy who's
Do you ever
looking at the
walk over
television
and just
screen, right? He's just looking at the game and that their first date.
Ooh.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm a little caught up with the game." And she's like, "Oh no, it's okay. I like that you're into." I'm like, "No, no, no. In 3 months, you're gonna be so annoyed that he's sitting there neglecting you and watching this game. Like it's
Should
happening
have
just
right now."
scheduled the
literally
date
carry
for after the
around.
game.
You
Yeah.
should carry around a whole pack of like red flags when you're out and about, and then you go over and you just stick it on the table.
Hand
in
it
front
to
of
people.
wanna
Just
do
hand
that.
it to people. That's funny.
Yeah, just
I
stick it straight
really,
on the table in front. Stick it in his burger. What the?
I,
really want
I mean,
to
there
do
is a guy online, right? The
You
green
should do
flag guy
that,
or
and
something.
you should
Yeah.
film it. You should
Yeah.
film it. It'll go
So
nuts.
funny.
There you go. There's your marketing strategy.
I would
Yeah.
really sometimes I hear it and I want to go over and say, "Honey, you need to
Mm-hmm.
find a courage. Let's go. I'll take you with me. Let's go.
Yeah.
Get out of
Come
here."
under
Yeah.
my wing.
Yeah, this guy.
Ooh, but
Nah.
yeah, healing does that. You see it, and people say, well, that sounds like I'll be alone forever. Well, you have two choices. You want to stay in a relationship like this, or you'd rather wait.
Mm.
It's a choice. Healing is a choice. It's not
Mhm.
easy, it's not comfortable, but it is so worth it.
No, it's not. You know, we've
No,
discussed
sometimes-
before about
sometimes when you're
not
in the midst,
masking and things.
yeah, sometimes when
discussed
you're in the
about just
midst of it, it
going-
doesn't feel like it's worth it. But
No,
eventually
when you're raw
it does.
dogging it, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I want to touch on before we rush off. Healing doesn't mean that you're not going to be triggered. People tend to say, "Oh, but when am I going to heal?" Never, because you start on the journey of healing, you stay on it. Just like you start on a journey of pain and you don't get off of it, you stay in it forever. Same thing with healing. There's always going to be something to work through. Because that's just how life is. And as you grow, as hopefully you evolve, you're going to have jobs that you need to navigate, confidence issues with work, or whatever it is you want to do. It depends on how you want to grow, but healing always happens. You're always going to be triggered. The difference is instead of being reactive, you are in control of your reaction. You can pause in real time when you're triggered. And you can choose, I think that's the thing, the empowerment. You choose how you're going to respond and react and when you're going to do it. Because I know a lot of times I would say, I need some time to process this. I can't right now. And then you come back and you, yeah, and God, life is good. And I so want everyone to experience this. I promise you, I want everyone to experience this. I mean, from being in relationships where you're anxious and begging and flying halfway around the world to be with a guy to convince him, yeah, I did that to be with me at 27 when I was young and all the good stuff, full of energy. That's what I was doing, to now being like absolute at peace. That is, oh God, I want everyone to have it. I'll figure out how to get the red pill and the blue pill.
I'm not at peace yet, just FYI for everyone out there, okay? Just throwing it out there. I'm not at peace.
You'll get there.
I'm getting there.
Mhm.
And getting there feels pretty good too. Just what is it? It's not the mountains, the climb, whatever. Part of it is true. Part of the climb is like Mount Everest and it's ugly and it's gross and there's potentially a lot of crying. Not that I know that. But and make sure you bring snacks for the road, but like it's a journey worth taking, okay? Yeah, snacks are key. Snacks and Kleenex, but yeah,
And
it's great.
Prosecco.
Oh yeah, and if you're Duncan, bring Prosecco.
The Brits. Duncan,
So
we got
wrong. Yeah. Sorry.
Any last thoughts you'd like to share before?
Last thoughts. Yes, I did. I did have one until I picked up the prosecco. Oh, that was it. Yes. Yeah, there is this. Well, I believe, from my perspective, a perspective that attachment theory is just about romantic relationships. I think it does get is much bigger than that. It's much it encompasses all relationships in your life. As we discussed, when you've got a fearful, avoidant, anxious parents dynamic there, it's not. I think the way social media pushes it is it's all about breakups, isn't it? Which is the main reason people get intrigued by it. That's your main introduction to it, but it's bigger than that. That's kind of what I'd say, and it can help you elsewhere, not just in, it will help you in all aspects of relationships in life, not just romantic.
Yeah, thank you for that. It just helped me remember something that I wanted to address. For those people who are mistaking the work that I do, I am not a get your ex back coach. I don't do that. I can't make that promise. I cannot help you control or manipulate another human being. But what does happen, what can happen if the other person is open to being in a relationship with you again after a breakup, is I can help you, and now Marta and Duncan will be helping me to do this. Heal your attachment style so that you could set boundaries and have the kind of relationship that you want with a person who's coming back. Because as Marta mentioned earlier, you can't get back together with the same behaviors and patterns and expect a successful relationship. I've mentioned Larry and I broke up. The only reason I believe that our relationship is working out the way it is right now, where we're both happy. Yes, I'm speaking for him, so why wouldn't he be? Is during the time of our breakup, I got to work. I got seriously working. I spent a lot of hours by myself working through patterns, changing patterns deliberately. Deliberate effort. I'm not talking at the end. I'm not kidding. At the end of the day, I was exhausted with the work that I was doing on myself. And we came back together when I felt ready, when I felt like I was ready to slowly get back into our relationship. So we didn't leave the relationship, jump back in, and picked up where we left off. It was not easy. He had to learn about this whole new me. He even said it a few times, like, I don't like this version. It's like, too bad. The old one's gone. You want to be with a version, you could get to know me and make a decision, but that person's not coming back. So we don't do get back your ex. We do let's heal your attachment styles. Let's work through the things that's been holding you back from having that kind of relationship that you want, so you could set boundaries and see how the other person shows up for you, and then you decide if you want to have a relationship with that person. So it's all about empowering you through healing your attachment style, or helping you to heal your attachment style.
And just to kind of add on to that a little bit real quick, I don't think there is a version of going back to like picking up where we left off, because, right, if at least one person has done the work, it's no longer A plus B equals C. Now we have a totally different equation. And both people in this scenario, right? Let's say you are planning on like, okay, let's try again. You have to realize we're not restarting. We're not performing CPR. No, we're starting with a brand new baby, right? Both parties kind of have to be like, you can discuss the past, you can go over that, and then you have to forgive and let go of that chunk and then build fresh, right? Otherwise the past is gonna drag you down. So it's not CPR, it's starting anew if that were to take place.
Just one more thing I wanted to add to what I said earlier, because I know it's social media. People love to take a clip and run with it. When I said that Larry said he didn't like this version, it was not the version that he was used to. And over time, he started to respect the new version, which I believe is what caused the attraction between us. And as I changed, I believe that pushed him into facing his fears being more vulnerable, see how he's going to be received. And then with now I'm not being passive aggressive, I'm clear. So he's got a clear map as to how I want to be treated. There's no, you need to guess how to treat me or guess how to show up in a relationship. I'm being very specific and I'm not telling you what to do. It's, this is what I'm not okay with, and this is what I'm okay with, and I'm grateful. So it's gratitude and stating what you're not okay with. I never had to say there's a consequence for it, right? It's just, hey, I'm really not okay with this. You could imagine whatever you want. That's your healing work, right? That's your healing work. If you're afraid, your healing work, and thank God he's also been in therapy for a number of years. So I just wanted to clear that up because people would think, oh, well, so he didn't like diversion, so he keeps pushing back. No. You don't do those things when you become securely attached. You don't get involved in relationships where people are pushing back on your boundaries.
It just took him a minute to realize that was new and improved.
Yeah. And we're,
Yeah.
yeah. And the thing about these relationships is that you start to feel it. People I used to hear it, people will say, you could feel when someone's in a relationship. You feel when they're committed. Yeah, you do. You could feel it. You don't have to hear it. You could just feel it. Yeah, good stuff.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I am very, very happy to have the two of you with me.
Well, I'm excited to
Be here.
Yeah. So I think we should do this every month where the three of us come together and we give our audience a little bit of decoding attachment style. We'll let them know what we've been seeing on, their questions that they're going to be sending into the Now subscription program that we've started. You could send your questions in and we're going to be answering them here as well as on the subscription and discussing little issues.
Sounds like a pretty good plan.
All righty.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, guys, don't forget, if
Okay.
you have not subscribed to Decoding Attachment Style, please do so and share this episode with your friends, family, and whoever else who may benefit from it. Thanks again. I'm Annalisa Bahadur, and joining me was Marta and Duncan.
Thank you.